if you want to know just how good of a job that Sharon Moore has done at retaining the players that Michigan has, only losing really Keon Sabb as far as the major contributing players. Well, the transfer portal, which is now closed, in that time frame that it was open, reportedly another school offered a Michigan starter $1.75 million to leave the Wolverines and go to their school. Let's talk about it on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Friday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground. Not really on the ground right now because I'm not in Indianapolis. But I am your man on the ground as a whole publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And I've been following what's been going on in Indianapolis, but we're going to get to that. Is some combine talk and all of that, because obviously that's the big stuff that's going on. We'll get to that in the later segments, but a couple things that I wanted to get to first, which the primary thing is, this is via The Athletic. Austin Meek, he says, whispers of lucrative NIL offers for Michigan star players proliferated during the open transfer window. One parent of a returning starter said on the condition, of anonymity, that their son was offered roughly $1.75 million to play the next season at a different school, significantly more than the player was earning at Michigan. Despite those overtures, the transfer window closed with Michigan losing only one projected contributor, safety Keon Sabb. So, I mean, that just goes to show you that the NCAA, number one, has completely backwards priorities. Because if it really had its priorities in order, it would sit there and be like, wait a second. It's not that he was in the transfer portal, whoever this is, this starter, because no starters entered the transfer portal. It's not that he was in the transfer portal and that another school was like, hey, you know what? We got you. Come here. Right? Even then, that's not supposed to really happen, the inducement of it all. That's not supposed to, but it obviously does. It's kind of exactly what's going on everywhere, except for maybe Ann Arbor, inducement. But that's tampering. And it doesn't really matter to me, at least. Maybe it does the NCAA that it's not, probably not a school directly doing it, right? They're doing it through an intermediary. They're doing it through an agent, whether it's the players, it could be the player's own agent, right? Have the player's own agent feel, getting a call from another school or a booster or something like that. Hey, what are the chances that for nearly $2 million, he'd leave there and come here? Like, the sport is currently falling apart. And I never was really fully believing it until kind of the last couple weeks, because you've got they're looking to expand the playoffs yet again. And, they're just doing all kinds of different things that just are making college football not college football. And listen, I'm all for players being able to make on their name, image, and likeness. I'm all for some semblance of free agency. But you know what the big difference between the NFL and college right now is? That you've got in college, it's the Wild West. In the NFL, if a player is like, hey, I'm looking for a certain number, there's a number I want to hit, they do it when they are a free agent, which is not literally every second of every year, right? Like, this is not new, of course. I mean, you have Pitt trying to defend, keep Jordan Addison. And Pat Narduzzi comes out and says, USC, during the season, USC is making overtures to try to lure away our star wide receiver. And then they did, and then the NCAA just did not care. You have a situation here where they're trying to lure away a starter from Michigan. And I know that there's a lot of people that are going to be like hashtag fire Ward with this, and the NIL is just not good enough. Listen, the NIL is that's not really on the athletic department completely, right? Like, that's NIL is not controlled by the athletic department. So it's one of those things where they've got to figure out how to get that type of money in the hands of the players that are getting offers like that from elsewhere. Certainly Champion Circle and them are trying. Certainly the new partnership with Learfield and Altius Sports Partners will help. But man, at least that player had the wisdom to stay, right? Because at some point it becomes difficult when you're sitting there and staring down $2 million essentially, because there are no guarantees anywhere in life, right? You could go out and your last day of playing football could be tomorrow in the off season, So someone's offering you some money, you might be like, oh, I want to stay at Michigan, but that sounds too good to be true, but I'm willing to go with too good to be true. So it's just becoming a problem. And especially when you have Michigan, who's trying to do things the right way. Any rival fans who are out there that are lurking here on the show, be aware that Michigan is in fact trying to do things the right way. As much as you want to scream hashtag cheating, it's just not an institutional practice whatsoever that Michigan bends the rules. So it puts teams that do try to abide by the rules and not go all bagman in just kind of a precarious position. Because now it's not now, this has always been the case, but the bad actors who know how to skirt rules are going to be the ones that end up coming away with, starters from other schools. Michigan is very fortunate that it has built a culture. And that was one of the things that I said when it came to my 10 bold predictions and why I felt Michigan was in a great position to not really fall off, is because I think that they're still going to bring back majority of the people that you think they're going to bring back. Got through the winter, the 30-day transfer window. See how things go in spring. Certainly, if that school offered him, whoever it is, $1.75 million, and it could be offensive and defensive, right? It could be Donovan Edwards, could be Colston Loveland. I think our thoughts instantaneously go to Will Johnson or Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant, but it could be any number of guys. So thankfully, they said no, and they're staying at Michigan. But it doesn't keep that other school from getting desperate in one way or another and saying, like, you know what, let's just jack that up. Let's just, those are rookie numbers. Let's just do whatever we can to even boost that. So it's going to be a continued uphill battle for Michigan. And hopefully, in the meantime, they'll find a way to get the whole NIL part at least on par with some of these schools that are offering things like that. Because here's the good news for Michigan. You can do some of these types of things and they will be looked at as legal, at least for most schools. Obviously, there are some who are under investigation for inducement, looking at Florida with the Jaden Rashada of it all. But nonetheless, you can probably get away with some different things, when it comes to retaining your players that you already have. So you need to find a way to take advantage of it. For the fire the money cannon stuff, like you always thought like that when this moment came where Michigan was going to be able to trade on name, image, and likeness, that it was going to be the best school at all of that. And that has not been the case. So they need to figure out a way to make sure that this type of stuff, that when those players hear these numbers and say that's a lot, they're not going to sit there and say that's a lot more. They're going to be like, you kidding me? That's less than what I make now. Sorry, I'm staying in Ann Arbor. So it's going to be incumbent upon really the collectives to find a way to make that happen. Anyway, all right, let's talk about some NFL Combine stuff. There is a bunch of things coming out of that. J.J. McCarthy is still going to throw, but he's not going to run the 40. You have Mikey Sainristil got some high praise. And we got a couple other topics to touch on that are coming out of Indianapolis. So we're going to do all of that, and we're going to do it here in just a moment. But before we do, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? I know I am. Ever wonder what adventure could be around your next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capability to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is always your updating assistant. Is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Or if you want to jump up to a little bit more of a big boy, I like the 2024 Nissan Armada. It will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. If you just picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. And I'll tell you what, Nissan, I've always thought they were on the cutting edge, especially of interior design and some of the things that they have. Imagine you've got a big truck, but you feel like you're driving a sports car, or a luxury car, rather. And you can tow bigger and explore further in the 2024 Armada. So take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go and find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, we're continuing to caffeinate here. All right, so let's talk a little not draft, but combine stuff. I keep on doing that. And I do it like I was out and about today and I'm having lunch and I'm trying to find what everyone's done at the combine so far as official times. And I'm like, why can't I find this? Because I kept on typing in NFL draft, not NFL combine. Nonetheless, I thought this is what first thing I kind of did as soon as I got up today. Woke up to it as a late a night owl, which is why we have later shows than a lot of our compatriots across the network, because I am not awake in the morning, and I wake around 4 p.m., which is good because it's 4:58 at the moment. But Nolan Bianchi on X, he tweets, Washington wide receiver Jalen McMillan says Michigan defensive back Mike Sainristil is the toughest player he faced in college. Quote, he was pissing me off. He was calling out formations, routes, end quote. I went back and started kind of looking really through the pictures rather than scrolling through the video. And it's just funny because it's like every time that I found a picture of Jalen McMillan, you had Mikey Sainristil right there. You should see the picture that I posted on Wolverines Wire. Just go to the Wolverines Wire front page, and you'll see the picture that I took, then I used as the main headline one. It's great because it's McMillan laying on the ground holding the football while Mikey Sainristil standing over him and everyone's celebrating around him. That was from one of many plays that he made on McMillan's expense. That was the open field tackle. Yes, that play where it looked like, okay, there's nothing but green ahead of him. He's got one player to beat, just shakes that one player. McMillan's off to the races, first down. No, Mikey Sainristil there wraps him up, swirls around him, and takes him down. Fourth down, Washington. That was a Mikey Sainristil on Jalen McMillan play. He had another one where they got the ball to him underneath, but kind of behind the line of scrimmage. It wasn't like a typical, it was a screen, but it wasn't a typical screen if I'm remembering it correctly. But then he got it more in the middle of the field, right? And again, it looked like he had room to go, and out of nowhere, Mikey Sainristil. The interception Mikey Sainristil had was a throw intended for Jalen McMillan. So you can see where he would be really frustrated, but it's fun to think that that's out of everyone that he's played. Pac-12's had some pretty good defensive backs over the last couple of years. But of everyone that Jalen McMillan's played, it wasn't someone from Texas who he faced the week before. It wasn't any of the Pac-12 players or any of the I can't think of any of the non-conference guys that they would have necessarily gone up against. I don't really know Washington's schedule like that offhand, but nonetheless, it was Mikey Sainristil, diminutive cornerback who plays nickelback, who plays much bigger than his size. And I think that this is, and I said this on the M Zone just a few minutes ago, I think one of the things that is going to help him is not the fact that he ran like a 4.49 or his 40-inch vertical jump or any of the stuff that he did in the combine today. I think what's going to help him more is a mixture of NFL GMs turning on the tape and watching what Mikey Sainristil did, right? You just knew he was clutch. In the biggest moments, he came up the biggest. Cade Stover pass breakup, the Travion Henderson hit, the 2 interceptions against Maryland was Maryland's driving to tie the game. Whenever there was any momentum in those games, he came up big. And then you had the timely forced fumbles against Iowa. little bit quieter in terms of having like those big, that big wow moment against Alabama. But I mean, it was big enough where I turned to Chris Breiler from the winged helmet and I said, it's about time for the patented Mikey Sainristil forced turnover time, right? Like that, it's about that moment. And then he gets it against Washington, seals the game with the interception. I think that NFL GMs are going to look at him and they're going to be like, okay, yeah, he's smaller, but look at how much bigger he plays. The 40-inch vertical is honestly one of the things that's going to help him the most, right? He has a 40-inch vertical. That's almost 4 feet. That's 3.5 feet off the ground. I think that when they look at his tenacity, the fact that he's a ball hawk, the fact that he makes just clutch plays, the fact that he is a team captain, he's a guy who solidifies your locker room, and that other teams are like, it felt like he was reading my mind because he knew everything that we were doing before we did it, and he was able to yell it out. And he did it. And again, rival fans, I want you to ear us for a moment. He did it without Connor Stallions for half of the year. All those games that I mentioned outside of Ohio State 2022, Connor Stallions not around. Not around at all. So I think that Mikey Sainristil has an absolute place at the high end in the league. It would not surprise me in the least if he ended up being a guy that we're talking about, not us, but nationally is talked about as just being a dude. Kind of like Richard Sherman, former wide receiver, converted. Much different body type, a little bit taller, but much like when Jim Harbaugh converted him at Stanford from wide receiver to cornerback, would not surprise me to see that move pay off kind of similarly. So I am very excited to see kind of what the NFL reaction is to Mikey Sainristil. I really feel like he could sneak into day one. Tom Fornelli, I believe it was, from CBS Sports, had him in as a Detroit Lions pick. We talked about that the other day. That'd be amazing. Number 29 overall. That would be a dream. That would be an absolute dream. I think he would have that same kind of impact that we think of like those games when Kirby Joseph is just lights out. Same kind of deal. So, yeah, hopefully that happens. But I don't see him getting past day two just with the way he's performed lately. Let's talk a little bit about JJ McCarthy and what he is doing and what he's not doing. We're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So put $5 on, find yourself a ringer, get $150 more to play with. If you're a smart bettor, you can make a heck of a lot of money you can take home. I am not a smart bettor, so I made a little bit of money, which I blew immediately. But that's $150 if your bet wins. That's all you got. So bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and a heck of a lot more. You get paid instantly as well, which makes it amazing. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NBA. Went and saw Dune Part 2. I don't know what to think still. I saw a lot of hype for it. A lot of hype. I'm a big, I read the book. I don't think it was actual Dune that I read in high school, because it was like, I thought I was rereading Dune. I'm like, this is not at all what I remember. I remember there being a lot more of the Fremen and all that kind of stuff, a lot more of the worms. So I think I just kind of inadvertently read one of the ones that was like in the middle of all of it. I wish I'd, had access to the book report I wrote on that forever ago, but that's not that's 18 computers ago at this point. But so I'm a big Dune fan. I'm a big fan of almost everybody in the cast. I'm a big fan of, I shouldn't say a big fan. I am a fan of Denis Villeneuve, or how you say his name. And every review I saw from people who saw sneak previews, I'm like on TikTok, and almost everyone was like, this is the best movie you've ever seen. If whatever your expectations are, go in with knowing that they should be higher and it's still going to blow you away. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was a cinematic masterpiece. I just don't know. I didn't feel like I do when I've walked out of a movie where I'm like, yes, that is maybe the best movie I've ever seen. And I love the source material. I loved the first one. So hyped for this one. I don't know. Maybe it will grow on me. Maybe I should go see it again. But going to see The Chosen episode 7 and 8 tonight. So that is my Friday evening, and then probably the gymnasium after that. Anyway, almost read the ad again because I don't know why. JJ McCarthy is going to be more limited than thought in the NFL scouting combine. Certainly his arm is not. I mean, he was out there yesterday in the convention center just tossing passes, little 35-yard outs to Blake Corum in the convention center in front of just like one dude with a camera. That doesn't seem like that was planned either. It just happened. So that's going to happen. I still think he'll wow NFL people once they get their eyes on him in person. See his short release, see his ability to just have that touch. I know I've seen people say, "Oh, he doesn't have touch. They're all fastballs." It's like, I don't know. With some of these draft evals that I read on, a lot of them are just on Twitter or whatever, but I'm like, what did you watch? What game are you watching? Now, I'm not saying that it's like, oh, he's just got the absolute perfect touch, but he's not Joe Milton, which, by the way, Joe Milton still claiming maize and blue, which I thought was cool to see. Said he was rooting for JJ and the guys. There was no overlap with Joe and JJ. So I think that's kind of cool. But nonetheless, and I digress. So JJ's not going to be able to run the 40-yard dash and do the vertical jump because apparently he has something going on with his hamstring. So, I mean, obviously you don't blame him because that could go from, running like a 4.4 or whatever he was going to end up running to running a 6. You don't want that. So you hope that he, gets to pro day and feels fine and can run. But that was, to me, going to be where he was really going to make his money. Were those two moments, because I thought that once teams could see just how fast he is, that was going to be what propelled him to past at least one other of the quarterbacks that are perceived to be ahead of him. But at the same time, JJ met with the Chicago Bears. He admitted at his interview this morning, which, I mean, that would be great for him. Now, do I think he'll be number 1 overall? No. I think that the hype behind Caleb Williams has been so high for a year now. I just don't think there's any way he doesn't go number 1 overall unless Roman Wilson, probably not Roman Wilson, but someone goes out and runs a 3.8 for the first time in the combine ever, right? Like, it's just like the Flash takes over and everybody looks and says, well, we have to have that, but I could see a scenario where Chicago trades down and picks up JJ. And I think that would be a cool thing for him as a Chicago native who grew up picturing himself playing for the Bears. It would be terrible for those of us who are Detroit Lions fans. There's no team I dislike more than the Chicago Bears. So, yeah, that would be very disappointing. But nonetheless, I think it would be also awesome for a guy like that. But he's going to hamper his ability. And again, it's not of his own volition. I'm not saying he's going to hamper it like he went out and self-sabotage. No, it's unfortunate that he has an injury that's precluding him from doing the thing that I think was going to be the most important aspect for him. But maybe throwing will be the most important because there just seems to be a stigma that he can't throw. Which is weird, especially because he is the first quarterback in my lifetime that I can recall where Michigan fans are like, you know what? We're good. We don't want to see the backup. I shouldn't say my lifetime, but since I've been paying attention the last 20 years. I mean, Chad Henne, I guess, was that too. But even then, when people wanted to see Ryan Mallett, and then they saw Ryan Mallett, and then they wanted to see Chad Henne again, but he was injured because he was a senior by that point, so you knew what he was capable of. But generally, you always see the backup quarterback is more popular than the starter in Ann Arbor, and that's not been the case for JJ. So hopefully he finds a way to be able to get good enough to run and show off his athleticism at Pro Day. So anyway, it's been a somewhat eventful combine so far, from what I can tell from afar. I have a little FOMO. I told myself I was going to go, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm getting some stuff done around the house now that it's been warmer. So anyway, just talking to you all as a friend at this point. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will be back soon. I would tease this weekend, but we all know how that goes. But we're going to try. We really want to do a weekend show one of these times. And last week we actually did one, but we just couldn't post it. So maybe this weekend, now that we can, we will. All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.